It was nightfall. Neon lights shimmered along Rodeo Drive, their glow dancing across the glassy surfaces of silent supercars gliding by like luxurious ghosts. Inside Lumiere, the crown jewel of Beverly Hills, dining crystal chandeliers spilled thousands of sharp rays of light, coating every wine glass, every tuxedo, every glance sharpened by prestige and the habit of judgment. In a place where reputation and appearance defined a person's worth, a man walked in quiet and uninvited. A worn white dress shirt, slightly wrinkled at the cuffs, faded blue jeans, scuffed brown leather shoes. He wore no accessories, no designer watch, no tie, just a calm face and a pair of observant, silent eyes. Nathan Cole, 48 years old. He passed through Lumiere's glass doors with an odd sense of ease, as if he didn't feel out of place, even though every gaze in the room turned toward him, puzzled, as if witnessing an anomaly that should not exist. At a table near the center, a woman in a strapless black dress tilted her head and whispered, "Delivery guy." Next to her, a man in a fedora shrugged and smirked. "Could be Uber Eats. Look at his shoes." But Nathan didn't react. He paused at the reception desk, his eyes sweeping across the room like someone preserving a memory, like a homeowner returning to an old house pretending to be a stranger. Behind the counter, Vanessa Blake, the evening floor manager, was in the middle of coordinating a VIP reservation for a Korean client group when she caught sight of Nathan. Her eyes narrowed. She cut her conversation short, scanning him from head to toe like an airport baggage scanner. "Good evening, sir." Her tone teetered between courtesy and mockery. "How may I help you?" "I'd like a table somewhere quiet if possible." Vanessa stifled a laugh through her nose, tilting her head as though she hadn't heard correctly. "You mean dine here?" Nathan gave a slight nod. "Yes." Silence. A hush floated in the air among the glitter and scrutiny. Vanessa leaned slightly forward and lowered her voice so no one else could hear. "Sir Lumiere is a reservation-only establishment. We're not really the type of place people just walk into unannounced." Nathan maintained a faint smile. "I understand, but tonight I'd like to dine here, if there's a table available." Vanessa glanced quickly at the reservation screen, then turned back with a practiced plastic smile. "We do have tables, of course, but are you sure this atmosphere is the right fit for you?" The surrounding air seemed to freeze. Some nearby diners began to tune in, curious, but Nathan showed no discomfort. He simply replied, "I'm here to eat, not to fit in." His answer made Vanessa hesitate momentarily. Then, recovering quickly, she turned sharply, voice now openly sarcastic. "Very well, I'll take you to an appropriate table." She walked briskly without glancing back to see if he followed. Her navy uniform dress brushed past crisp white linen tables, while curious eyes tracked the quiet man behind her, like the shadow of an untold story. A story no one expected would upend everything in a single night. Vanessa led Nathan past the grand center tables, where golden light poured down like a stage set for the elite. But she didn't stop there. Instead, she veered off toward a dimly lit corner near the kitchen, where the lighting faded and sounds of clattering dishes and staff chatter leaked through swinging doors. "Here, this table suits you better," she said sweetly, her tone dripping with false kindness. "Private and out of sight." She dropped the menu on the table with a thud, like a steel curtain crashing down. Still smiling, Nathan pulled out a chair and sat. "Thank you. I think I'll be comfortable here." Vanessa squinted, trying to discern if he was being sarcastic or clueless. Then she shrugged and walked off silently, thinking, "He won't last 10 minutes. The menu alone will scare him off." She returned to her bright hostess persona, this time for a regular seated near the center. Laughter floated, heads bowed in warm greeting. Vanessa transformed into royalty, receiving nobility. And Nathan, he sank into the shadows like invisible dust amid a gallery of diamonds. He opened the menu. His eyes scanned the dishes like a man browsing familiar shelves in an old library. Calm, unhurried, unafraid. From afar, Vanessa peeked. "Still here. Let's see what he tries to order." Nearby, a couple, Chloe and Daniel Morris, exchanged glances. The woman whispered, "He's being treated horribly." But look, he's not upset. Daniel frowned, whispering back, "There's something unusual about this man." And indeed, things were about to get even more unusual. Vanessa returned to Nathan's table with a small notepad and a silver pen, her movements quick but unwelcoming. "Have you decided, or should I recommend something? More budget-friendly." Her voice dripped like a tiny knife, pressing into pride. Nathan looked at the menu, then gently tapped a finger on the line, Filet de Rossini, 350s. I'd like to try this. Vanessa paused a beat, then let out a short laugh. Oh, that one. Just so you know, that's one of our most expensive dishes. Nathan nodded. I know, and I still choose it. She lifted her chin slightly, eyes searching for signs he might be joking, but all she found was calm. Very well, she said, scribbling down the order, sarcasm no longer veiled. We hope you appreciate the flavors. It's not exactly common fare. Nathan maintained his gentle smile. I came here for the experience. Vanessa inhaled sharply before spinning away, but just before leaving, she tossed back. By the way, the minimum tip here is 20%, just so you're aware. A faint chuckle came from a nearby table, not from Nathan, but another guest quietly watching the spectacle. She walked off. Nathan remained still, eyes drifting across the room. He admired the chandeliers, the oil paintings, and the gentle sweep of the piano, soft as mist over an expensive air. The appetizer arrived. Vanessa set the plate down, with a thud causing it to slide slightly on the table. Your appetizer. Hope you recognize what you're eating. Nathan looked up, voice steady. Thank you, it looks lovely. Vanessa leaned in, voice low but just loud enough for Nathan and the table beside him to hear. Plenty of people order this and can't even swallow it. Let's hope you're the exception. Good luck. Nathan remained calm, his eyes glinting with rare patience. I appreciate your attentive service. She left again this time, without even pretending to glance back. At a nearby table, Chloe Morris muttered, She has no sense of professionalism. Daniel nodded, eyes fixed on Nathan. He's staying calm. That's impressive. Elsewhere, an elderly man, Gerald Rowe, raised his wineglass, glanced toward Nathan, and gave a slow nod of silent praise. Dinner had barely begun, but the glances around the room began to shift. No longer mocking now, curious, soon, they would become admiring. Nathan lifted his fork delicately, cutting a bite-sized portion of the appetizer. His movements were deliberate, elegant, not rushed or performative, as if dining at a familiar cafe, not under a microscope of concealed contempt. From a distance, Vanessa couldn't take her eyes off him. She raised a brow, whispering to a passing coworker, Just wait. He'll ask for tap water next. They always do. The coworker merely nodded, offering no comment. At the next table, Chloe was still watching. She gently touched Daniel's arm. Did you see how he responded? No anger, no defensiveness. Just quiet. Daniel was thoughtful, quiet, but thought-provoking. Mr. Gerald Rowe continued observing, but now his gaze held not just curiosity, but respect. He murmured, Few can maintain composure like that under scrutiny. Meanwhile, Vanessa busied herself with more important tables. She refilled wineglasses for regulars, laughed heartily at dry jokes, and deliberately avoided even glancing Nathan's way. But strangely, Nathan showed no irritation. He ate, observed, and enjoyed the piano, like someone who had always belonged here. And that made people start wondering, who is he really? Vanessa returned to Nathan's table with a cup of coffee, setting it down hard enough to make the surface ripple. Black coffee, no sugar, no cream. The way some simple folks prefer it, she said with biting irony. Nathan maintained his serene gaze. Thank you. Vanessa folded her arms, lingering as if expecting a reaction. When none came, she turned to a nearby colleague and said louder than necessary, It's hard to maintain standards when anyone thinks they can just walk in because the lights are pretty. Several guests turned their heads. The room wavered slightly. Chloe's mouth fell open in disbelief. Daniel leaned toward her. She's humiliating him, in front of the entire restaurant. Mr. Gerald set his wine down, eyes narrowing. That's crossing the line. Nathan raised his coffee, took a small sip, and gently placed the cup back. No rebuttal, no excess motion. His calm infuriated Vanessa. She returned with a forced smile. Hope you're enjoying your Lumiere experience. We welcome all types of clientele. Diversity makes the ambiance more exciting. Nathan looked up. His gaze met hers like cold steel. Different? Could you clarify what you mean by that? Vanessa gave a dry chuckle, hesitating. Oh, nothing really. Just your style is uncommon here. By then, the piano had stopped. A vague hush fell over the room, like curtains being drawn. Nathan held her gaze. Thank you for your honesty. I prefer to see the true nature of a place before judging it. Vanessa faltered, but before she could respond, a figure appeared at the entrance and everyone turned. Mr. Harold Green, the restaurant manager, had arrived, and in that instant his face changed when he saw Nathan. "Mr. Cole, I didn't know you were visiting tonight. I sincerely apologize for not welcoming you sooner." The entire room froze. Vanessa stood paralyzed. Chloe gasped. "Mr. Cole? Who is he?" Daniel whispered. "He's not just a guest. He's a stakeholder here." Nathan took another sip of coffee, and this time his smile was unmistakable. Not out of joy, but because the moment had come. The atmosphere inside Lumiere froze, as if someone had cut off all the air in the room. No longer were eyes fixed on the plainly dressed man, but on Harold Green, the manager who now stood with his head bowed before him. Vanessa instinctively stepped back, her lips' dry face turning pale like all the blood had drained from it. She looked from Nathan to Harold, trying to piece together the scattered fragments in her mind. Mr. Cole, he's... Harold turned to her disappointment, etched deep in his eyes. "Vanessa, this is Nathan Cole, one of the co-founders of Lumiere." A shockwave rippled through the dining room. Glasses clinked softly. Someone dropped a napkin. Guests began whispering in hushed disbelief. Chloe turned to Daniel. "He's the owner of this place." Daniel nodded, his gaze still locked on Nathan. "The owner? And she's been mocking him the entire evening." Nathan gently set his coffee cup down and turned his attention to Vanessa. Not with rage, not with malice, but with calm authority. "We need to talk, don't we? About how a person is treated based solely on their appearance." Harold nodded rapidly. "I completely agree, sir. Please allow me to apologize on behalf of the entire staff." Nathan raised a hand to stop him. He stood smoothing down his shirt and turned to Vanessa. "I'm not asking for privilege. I don't need to be treated differently. But what I do expect is that every person who walks through these doors is treated with dignity." Vanessa bowed her head speechless. Her lips tightened. Her eyes reddened. She knew what was coming. But what happened next silenced the entire room. Nathan turned to Harold. "I'd like to meet with the entire staff after service ends tonight. We need to have a serious conversation." Harold bowed slightly. "Yes, sir, absolutely." Nathan returned to his seat and sat with quiet poise. But now the space around him was no longer hostile. It had become a space slowly awakening. Later that night, when the last guests had departed and the clinking of cutlery had faded, the staff gathered in a small meeting room behind the main hall. No chandeliers, no piano melodies, no forced smiles of fine dining, only silence. Nathan Cole stood before them. No microphone, no raised voice, but his eyes steady and deep, like a midnight lake, stilled the entire room. "I didn't come here tonight to test anyone," he began. "I didn't flash my name or title to demand respect." He turned to look at Vanessa, seated at the back, hands clenched tightly, her eyes swollen. But what happened tonight wasn't just a personal mistake. It was a mirror, and in that mirror, we saw what's wrong inside us. No one spoke, no one moved. Nathan continued. "I've been the person with nothing. I know how it feels to walk into a place and be judged by your clothes, your shoes. But I also know every person carries a story. You can't see from the outside." He paused, scanning the room. "We cannot call ourselves a luxury restaurant if we lack luxury in our treatment of others. Class doesn't live in the wine, you pour it lives in. How you look at another human being." Vanessa lowered her head. For the first time in her years of working, she felt true shame, not because she was scolded, but because she had forgotten who she was in a moment of arrogance. Nathan spoke slowly but firmly. "I'm not here to fire anyone. I'm here to remind you. Kindness is not a privilege. It's a choice we must make daily for every guest, no matter what they wear or what they drive." There was no applause, but in the stillness of that room, the only sound was the weight of truth. The energy in the room after Nathan's speech lingered like mist over a still lake. No one left, no one spoke, but in their eyes something had changed, a confrontation with themselves. Vanessa stood, shoulders trembling. She took a deep breath, as if stripping away the pride she had worn, like a mask for years. "I'm sorry," she said hoarsely. "There's no excuse for how I acted tonight. I judged someone by appearances, and that was completely wrong." Nathan looked at her, not as a victor, but as someone who understood. "You don't owe me an apology. You owe yourself a chance to start over." Vanessa bit her lip, tears threatening. She nodded. "I will change, not because of you, but because I don't want to be the person I was tonight." Nathan nodded gently. A few other staff members quietly followed with nods of their own, not in solidarity with her, but because they too were beginning to reflect. The arrogance in their eyes, the coldness in their greetings, The apathy during rush hours, little by little, they had built a toxic culture they hadn't even noticed. Harold, the manager, stepped forward. On behalf of the team, I'd like to say we know what we need to do, and we won't let tonight be a fluke. It will be the turning point that transforms Lumiere into a place of true class in both service and spirit. Nathan smiled. I believe in people, not perfection. But I believe that if we're brave enough to admit our faults, then anything can be mended. A soft round of applause followed, not loud, not performative, but filled with heartfelt resonance. That night, Lumiere became more than a luxury restaurant. It became a place of awakening. As the meeting ended, the staff quietly filtered out. No one rushed, no one spoke loudly. They walked as if carrying something heavy, but something that would make them better. Vanessa lingered behind. As she passed Nathan, she stopped for a moment, bowed deeply. No words, just one small gesture, but it said everything. Nathan stepped out into the quiet Beverly Hills night. The streetlights still shimmered as always, but their glow reflected softer, more kindly in his eyes tonight. He paused on the sidewalk, looking back at the building, a place that had nearly lost its soul to arrogance. The breeze ruffled his hair, carrying the faint echo of piano notes, still lingering in memory. A car pulled up. The driver lowered the window. "Mr. Cole, are you ready?" Nathan nodded, stepped into the car. But before the door closed, he looked back at Lumiere one last time and smiled just slightly. "They'll do better. I believe that." The car slid into the night, and inside Lumiere, no one yet realized that what seemed like a disaster was the beginning of their transformation. As for Nathan, he didn't need anyone to recognize who he was. All he wanted was for them to recognize themselves. As the car glided through the quiet streets of Beverly Hills, Nathan Cole rested his head against the window. Golden light danced across his face, and in his serene eyes there was no triumph, only peace. He didn't retaliate. He didn't expose. He let truth speak and kindness do the rest. The next morning, a handwritten note was taped at Lumiere's entrance. It bore no signature, but everyone knew who had written it. "Welcome to Lumiere. Yesterday a man walked in wearing simple clothes and was judged for it. But that very man reminded us. Class is not in a suit or a wallet. It's in how we treat others. Starting today, Lumiere pledges not just to serve well, but to serve with heart. Because here every person matters." The message wasn't long, but it struck a deep chord. Many customers photographed the letter and posted it on social media with hashtags like "Our Kindness Matters" and "Wofor," the real Lumiere. Vanessa began each shift, greeting guests with genuine eye contact, not just rehearsed smiles. The younger staff, some of whom heard Nathan speak for the first time, came to understand that hospitality wasn't just a job, but a mission. And Lumiere, once just a symbol of luxury, slowly became a place where people came not only for cuisine, but for the feeling of being seen and respected. As for Nathan, he never returned, but he knew sometimes a small act is enough to change an entire system. And in a world that grows louder every day, what people remember most is kindness.